Welcome, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. Today, our theme of mastery is titled The Vineyard Within and Without. The condition of our inner vineyard will directly affect our outer vineyard. Our outer vineyard can be affected by us, by others, and also by the enemy. Yahusha came to give us life and life more abundantly. In order to achieve this, we must stay connected to his vine, the true vine, which is the tree of life that heals and nourishes our inward vineyard. His word is our roadmap to navigate this fallen world. His word is our protective shield. In the book of Job, we saw Job, he clung to his faith. Despite his painful sores, despite words of death being spoken around him and to him, his inner faithful vineyard overcame and healed the devastating, harsh attacks on his outer vineyard. When our outer vineyard is attacked, which may be no fault of our own, we, like Job, must stand. To stand under such circumstances, no matter what the outcome, requires a healthy, a strong, and a beautiful vineyard from within.
Exodus chapter 3, verse 12. And Yahuwah said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship me on this mountain.
Morning, noon, and night, I will worship you. The purpose for my life is to worship you. I will worship you. Forever in spirit and in truth. I will worship you. When all is said and done, I'll still worship you. Before your judgment throne, I will worship you. I will worship you. Forever in spirit and in truth. I will worship you.
Revelations 12, verse 16. And the 24 elders who were seated on their thrones before Yahuwah fell on their faces and worshiped him, saying, We give you thanks, Yahuwah Elohim, the one who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign. I will worship you, Yahuwah, Elohim. I will worship you, Yahuwah, my Elohim. I will worship you, Yahuwah, my Elohim. I will worship you, Yahuwah. I will give you praise, Yahuwah, Elohim. I will give you praise. I will praise your name, Yahuwah, Elohim. I will bow my knee to you, mighty one. I will bow my knee, yes I will, to you, mighty one. I will lift my voice, yes I will. Every day I'll lift my voice to you. Oh, Most High, I will lift my voice to you. Oh, Most High, I will exalt your name, yes I will. Yahuwah, I will, I will exalt your name, Yahuwah. I will worship you forever and ever and ever and ever. I will worship you, Yahuwah, Elohim. I will worship you, Yahuwah, Elohim, my Elohim.
Oh, I will worship you. I will worship you. I will give you praise, Almighty One.
Mighty.
I will lift my voice and worship you. Oh, yes, I will.
Oh yes, oh yes,
Oh, yes, I
will.
will. I will worship you.
I will lift my voice.
I
I will bless your name,
Yahuwah,
Yahuwah,
Elohim.
Elohim,
I will worship you.
Toda Father,
I will worship you.
Yahuwah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
In Isaiah chapter 5, last Shabbat, we read, "Please let me sing to the one I love, a song for my loved one regarding his vineyard. My loved one has a vineyard on a fertile hill, and he dug it up and cleared it of stones and planted it with the choicest vine and built a watchtower in its midst and also made a winepress in it. And he waited for the yielding of grapes, but it yielded rotten ones. And now, O inhabitant of Jerusalem and man of Judah, please judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Why, when I waited for the yielding of grapes, did it yield rotten ones? And now, please let me inform you what I am doing to my vineyard, to take away its hedge, and it shall be burned, to break down its wall, and it shall be trampled down, and I lay it waste. It is not pruned or dug, and thorn bushes and weeds shall come up, and I command the clouds not to rain on it. For the vineyard of Yahweh of hosts is the house of Israel, and the man of Judah is his pleasant plant. He looked for right ruling, but see oppression. He looked for righteousness, but see weeping. What more could he have done? He couldn't have done any more. He's done it all for us. Israel is Yahweh's firstborn son. Corporately, Yahweh had rescued Israel, his firstborn son, out of Egypt, all 12 tribes and the multi-ethnic sojourners. Now, keep in mind, of key importance was Exodus chapter 12, verse 49. There is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. Extremely important verse. His word is life, and his word is protection. Outside his word is death and brokenness. Yahweh leads Israel into the promised land and provides us a beautiful vineyard to possess, both corporately and individually. It is not automatic. We must possess it, hold on to it, love it. From Isaiah chapter 5, we see Yahweh describe his vineyard, the house of Israel, both outwardly and inwardly. Yahweh had found a fertile hill, removed the stones, planted the choice vine, not vines. He planted the choice vine. He protected it by the watchtower in its midst. He taught the branches to grow upward and waited for a bountiful harvest to be produced. But after all that, the unruly branches produced rotten grapes. There was nothing left to be done. The branches rebelled. They chose to succumb to the harsh external environments and chose to waller in the muck and the mire beneath them. They refused to let the master gardener lift them up to higher ground. Therefore, the branches reaped what they sowed. The master gardener withdrew his help. He withdrew his protection. He withdrew that protective shield, and death, decay, invasion, and pestilence followed. We see the symptoms of the unhealthy branches, but we must look more deeply to see the cause. You see, the cause had started from within their heart and soul. Generations were being affected because we know his word says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow old, they shall not depart from it. But that does not always happen to every child born. Not every child has that opportunity. Not every child is born in that environment. Because instead of right ruling, there is oppression and possession. Instead of righteousness, there is weeping. The cause was sin. The cause was disobedience and breaking of Yahweh's protective shield, his very covenant commands. Let's learn more about protective shields.
Fruits can thrive nearly anywhere. For thousands of years, they've found ways to adapt to various climates and agricultural growing areas. The pear is one such example. With 25 different kinds to choose from, pears grow in North Africa, Asia, and Europe. To grow in such a wide range of areas, a fruit has to be able to adapt. Yet regardless of where fruits are grown, they face ongoing difficulties, including extreme conditions. Heat waves can cause plants to lose a great deal of water. Grapes are especially sensitive to these sorts of conditions and start to shrivel. Excessive moisture can also be detrimental and cause fruits to rot. Similarly, a prolonged downpour can have adverse effects on plants, with unwanted water making its way into fruit until it bursts. That's why grapes, tomatoes, apples, and in fact all types of fruit, have a special protective wax envelope covering their outer skins. This natural coating is invisible to the naked eye. Here is a detailed look at this envelope. Cell walls provide a stable structure and create a primary barrier for the fruit to protect its insides. This is reinforced by a very thin skin found atop the cell wall and comprised of several layers, with the natural wax coating being the outermost of these. If we were to examine this surface under an electron microscope, we'd see that many types of plants have an elaborate crystal structure. All of these intricate protective mechanisms ensure that fruits stay fresh and palatable. So, contrary to popular belief, the white layer, often found on fruit, is neither toxic nor a sign of pesticides. Still, if used, pesticides can be found on the wax surface of fruit long after they've been applied. It's therefore a good idea to wash grapes and all other fruits thoroughly before eating them. This also goes for apples. In Germany, apples may only be treated with natural wax like beeswax or shellac. Associations for Organic Agriculture prohibit supplemental wax treatments. Be that as it may, even the surfaces of organic apples have a natural wax coating. This feels somewhat greasier than what we're used to, but not to worry. It's all natural and makes for an especially healthy apple peel. All fruits have a protective outer envelope, even if we can't see, feel, or notice them at all. Whatever the case, this coating is the product of having successfully adapted to changing growing conditions over many, many generations.
In Isaiah chapter 5, verse 24, we read about our protective shield within and without. We read, therefore, as a tongue of fire devours the stubble, and the flame consumes the chaff, their root is as rottenness, and their blossom goes up like dust, because they have rejected the Torah of Yahweh of hosts and despised the word of the set apart one of Israel. We see in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 24, Yahweh's protective shield. It is the Torah of Yahweh, and it's clearly defined in this verse. Today, his protective shield, his covenant Torah, protects our vineyard from within, which is our heart and soul. Our heart and soul consist of our mind, will, and emotions. When our heart and soul is in alignment with Yahweh, we walk under his covenant umbrella. By doing so, we give no foothold or permission to the enemy. Although bad things can happen to his people, we know he will help us navigate and protect our outer and inner vineyard. He will help us bloom where we are planted, even in harsh conditions. He tells us he will never leave us or forsake us. This holds true both individually and corporately as the corporate body of Israel. Now, in Obadiah, if you recall, the fire that's spoken of in Isaiah 5:24 and the flame spoken of in Isaiah 5:24 is identified in Obadiah. Israel is the fire and Joseph is the flame. But not all that call themselves Israel are Israel. In the end of days, Yahusha, along with the remnant of Israel, will be the fire that devours the stubble. They will be Joseph, the flame that consumes the chaff. These may very well be the 144,000. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14 through 21, Messiah shall shine on you. Verse 14, that is why he says, wake up, you who sleep. And that's quoted from Isaiah 26:19. Hello, wake up, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Messiah shall shine on you. See then that you walk exactly, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are wicked. So then do not be foolish, but understand what the desire, the will of Yahweh is. And do not be drunk with wine, in which is loose behavior, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to each other in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs, singing and striking the strings in your heart to the Master, giving thanks always for all to Elohim the Father, for all to Elohim the Father, in the name of our Master Yahusha Messiah, subjecting yourselves to each other in the fear of Elohim. I'd like to go over a few examples. The first will be in Mark, when Yahusha encounters the Gadarene demoniac. Now, Gadara was an ancient city of the Middle East, southeast of the Sea of Galilee, which is known now as Jordan. Gadara was one of the Greek cities of the Decapolis. Once this man was healed, we will see he was clothed. He had a protective cloak, if you will. He had peace. He was sitting peacefully, and he had a sound mind. Yahusha instructs him to go home after he's healed and tell his friends what the Master had done. And the man began to proclaim his testimony in the Decapolis.
They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." But Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region.
We see that Gadara was part of the Decapolis, and this was the man's home. He lived in Gadara. We see that the people in that region placed their livestock of pigs over the value of man. Since we know Gadara was the man's home, he apparently was raised in this environment, this external, if you will, environment. These hometown people had just sent Yahusha, the word, away from their midst. They sent away the shield of protection that was walking among them. They sent away Yahweh's choice vine. But Yahusha tells this man, who was one of their own hometown boys in Gadara, because the man wanted to go with him, but he said, "No, go back, spread, tell your friends, spread his testimony, his miracle, exactly where he had first been planted." We see that this man's outward vineyard no longer consisted of dwelling among the tombs, nor cutting his flesh. And this man's inward vineyard was now clothed with the master's shield of protection as the man sat peaceably in body, mind, and spirit. His outward symptoms had been inwardly, demonically driven, and he behaved as a wild man. I mean, this was a case that you could tell he was obviously possessed. It wasn't very hard to see through that. The cause, though, or root, very possibly was generational. He had been surrounded by a sinful environmental atmosphere, along with the people in that city that probably lived a very sinful life, which gave permission or a portal to demonic spirits to invade his body and soul. This city had a love of money over people. Now, the once possessed man would be a living example of the power of Elohim. Also, in Mark 5, we read about the woman with the issue of blood. The woman with an issue of blood for 12 years was running out of hope. 12 years is an awfully long time to be ill. Numerically, 12 equates to the house of Israel. And in Isaiah chapter 5, as well as today, Israel will run out of hope if not connected to the true vine. Worldly physicians could not heal this woman. They couldn't put her back together again. Her vineyard within and without was suffering. It was hemorrhaging. Her symptoms were bleeding within and without for 12 years. And she had spent all her money trying to heal her symptoms of bleeding, but the cause eluded worldly physicians. The cause of her outward symptoms were due to her inward affliction. Under the book of the law, she was classified as unclean. Yet her faith healed her when by her belief, she touched the hem of Yahusha's garment, his power shield, his spiritual protective covering flowed. It flowed from him, the true vine, to her. Notice that by her touch, she did not make him unclean, because the power left him and traveled to her. She didn't make him unclean. He made her clean. If he had been made unclean, he could not have continued on to heal Jairus' daughter. And Jairus was a leader in the synagogue. And at this time, they all functioned under the book of the law. Only Yahusha can heal the vineyard of our heart and soul, which is our mind, our will, and emotions, calling our body under submission to the soul that is submitted to his spirit within us. Her inner and outer vineyard was hemorrhaging. She was in a very dire predicament. Yahusha was the only hope, and he is our only hope. Yahusha healed her inward affliction, the affliction causing her hemorrhage, thus healed her outward vineyard of no longer being classified and ostracized as being unclean. Life is in the blood, and her affliction was draining the life out of her.
He's coming! He's here! Look!
Jesus! Jesus! I beg you to save my only daughter. Sir, have mercy. She's only 12 years old and dying. Please, please come with me.
If I can only touch his robe, I will be healed.
Jairus, I'm sorry.
Leave him alone, Jairus.
Jesus!
Your daughter has died. Don't bother the teacher any longer.
Don't be afraid. Only believe and she will be well. Only believe and she will be well.
Who touched me? Someone touched me, for I knew it when power went out of me.
It was I who touched you. I have suffered for 12 years with bleeding.
I spent all I had on doctors who could do nothing. But when my fingers touched your robe, I was healed.
Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Go in peace.
Thank you.
As we proceed with the account of Jairus' daughter, we again see the significance of the number 12. The commonality of the three accounts we read about in Mark chapter 5, which was part of our devotional this week, was that all three found themselves in a hopeless state. Only those that attached themselves to the vine and truly believed were healed. They each were in a totally broken state. Today, when the iniquity of the nations reach their fullness, Yahusha, in his perfect timing, will return for his bride, the 144,000, the remnant 12 tribes scattered abroad. He will find both wise virgins, those that are keeping his covenant commandments, and foolish virgins, those that choose blended, watered down doctrine, those that have chosen lukewarmness. It is not to say that the foolish virgins will not be saved. However, they may go through the great tribulation to refine their faith and hope in Yahusha HaMashiach. Jairus was one of the rulers of the synagogue. His heart was broken and spilled out over his eldest daughter dying. Whatever it took, he humbled himself by reaching out to Yahusha, the great physician. Jairus voiced his faith in Yahusha by asking him to come and lay his hands on her so that she would be healed. That day, both Jairus and his daughter were healed. Both of them. There were two people struggling here. The mourners lacked faith that had been gathered around this scene of Jairus' daughter dying. The mourners lacked faith. They mocked and wept. In Isaiah chapter 5, verse 7b, we read, "He looked for right ruling, but see oppression. He looked for righteousness, but see weeping." His righteousness is found in his kingdom of priests. Yahusha was ushering in the kingdom and was demonstrating that it was by grace through faith that he heals, whether it is in this life or the next, when we will be present with him. Irregardless when and where we're healed, in him we are healed. By his stripes we are healed.
Jesus! Stephen, I beg you to save my only daughter. Sir, have mercy. She's only 12 years old and dying. Please come with me.
Jairus, I'm sorry. Jesus! Your daughter has died. Don't bother the teacher any longer.
Don't be afraid. Only believe and she will be well. Do not weep. She's not dead, but only sleeping. Child, arise. Give her something to eat. I charge you. Tell no one what has happened here.
So Yahweh's protective mechanism. Yahweh has given Israel, those born from above, garments of white, which for us signifies a protective coating, a protective shield. The remnant of the 12 tribes of Israel are scattered abroad and have adapted and bloomed where they have been planted, generation after generation. When the iniquity is full, Yahusha will return for his remnant bride. Israel, born from above, is multi-ethnic, meaning we consist of every tongue, tribe, people, and nation. Yahusha is the vine, the true vine. We are the branches. Without him, we can do nothing. There is but one law for his people. Like natural growing fruit, Israel, born from above, will face extreme conditions, harsh surroundings, damaging circumstances, trials, and tribulations. But Yahusha reminds us to be of good cheer, for he has overcome the world. In other words, he's got this. Whatever comes our way, he will never leave us or forsake us. He has washed us and made us white as snow and cloaked us with that protective shield of his righteousness. In Isaiah chapter 6, verse 13, we read, "To appoint unto those who mourn in Zion, to give them embellishment for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, and they shall be called trees of righteousness, a planting of Yahweh to be adorned." What exactly does our protective white coating consist of? What qualifies us to have garments of white? What is this shield that quenches fiery darts? How can it protect us within and without? How can it be our front and rear guard? The protection he provides is for us to walk by faith and guard his covenant commands and hold to the testimony of Yahusha HaMashiach, to stand, to learn, to grow, and to understand how to rightly divide his word of truth. Our protective coating is invisible to the naked eye, but not to the eye of Yahweh. He himself records in the heavens that this one was born there. When we are born anew, he himself records you in the heavens. He has marked our very DNA. Israel, corporately, Israel is my firstborn son. Psalm 87:5, and of Zion, it is said, each one was born in her. For the Most High himself does establish her. Yahweh does write in the register of the peoples, this one was born there. Selah. His protective coating makes up the wall of our temple and the boundaries in which we live set apart in this fallen world. We make up the one new man individually and corporately, having the mind of Yahusha, which is the word of Yahweh, carrying out the will of the Father, just like he did, and submitting our emotions to bear the fruit of the Spirit. through our words, actions, and deeds. This keeps our horse and rider in balance. This keeps our thinking and our emotions in balance. Because the metaphor is the horse is our emotions and the rider is our thinking. We must keep the two in balance. And the only way we can do that is walking a submitted life, a set apart life to Yahuwah. We are covered by the blood of the Lamb and nourished by the manna from heaven, his living word. We are betrothed. He provided us our covenant of protection, our priestly coat that covers us in his righteousness. We are a coat of many colors. We are living multicolored stones that make up the New Jerusalem, his bride. Psalm 91:4, he covers you with his feathers, and under his wings you take refuge. His truth is a shield and armor. Tainted elements from this world and generationally may try to attach themselves to Yahweh's people within and without. For this reason, we need the daily washing of his word. We need to be mikvahd, immersed daily in his word for healing and wholeness. That is why we must know how to rightly divide his word of truth. See, the woman with the issue of blood reached out and touched. What did she touch? She touched the word, and the word became flesh, did he not? Psalm 147:2-3. Yahweh builds up Jerusalem. He gathers the outcast of Israel. He heals the brokenhearted. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. In him, behold, some things are made new. No, it doesn't say that. In him, behold, all things are made new. Yahweh is the great physician. We can only be healed and made whole through him. He is the one that heals the brokenhearted and mends fragmented souls. We begin by accepting his marriage proposal ratified by his precious blood and partake in his covenant confirming meal of bread and wine. We then become new wine, pressed and placed in new wine skins. Isaiah 58:6-14. Is this not the fast that I've chosen? To loosen the tight cords of wrongness, to undo the bands of the yoke, to exempt the oppressed, and to break off every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out, when you see the naked and cover him, and not hide yourself from your own flesh? Then your light would break forth like the morning, your healing spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you. The esteem of Yahweh would be your rear guard. Then, when you call, Yahweh would answer. When you cry, he would say, here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and the speaking of unrighteousness, if you extend your soul, your being to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted beings, the afflicted souls, then your light shall dawn in the darkness, and your darkness be as noon. Then Yahweh would guide you continually and satisfy your soul, your being in drought. Do we not all have seasons of drought? And strengthen your bones. Do we not all have seasons of feeling weak and helpless? And you shall be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. In other words, his vineyard within us would thrive. And those from among you, see, he's going to use those from among us, shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you would be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in. If you do not turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my set apart day, and shall call the Sabbath a delight, the set apart day of Yahweh esteemed, glorified, and shall esteem it, glorify it, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in Yahweh, and I shall cause you to ride on the heights of the earth and feed you with the inheritance of Jacob, your father. For the mouth of Yahweh has spoken. Shabbat shalom to all. May you be very blessed today and each day. May you be healed by his presence in your heart.